Sun sank slowly on the horizon, casting long shadows over the cracked pavement as 10-year-old Sam Martinez walked home from school. The noise of the bustling playground faded behind him, a distant echo that only served to amplify the emptiness inside. He shuffled along the sidewalk, his small frame dwarfed by the towering trees that lined the street, their leaves whispering secrets to the wind. Sam felt as if he was invisible, a ghost drifting through a world that continued spinning without him. Clutching his backpack tightly, he thought of his grandfather, whose laughter used to fill their home like music on a summer's day. Since his passing the previous year, the warmth had dissipated, replaced by an unyielding chill that seemed to settle in the corners of their once lively living room. Sam missed the simple moments, sitting on the couch with his grandfather, both of them laughing along to George Strait songs, learning the words and dancing in careless joy. Those memories now felt like fragments from a dream, longing for the gentle embrace of reality. Pushing open the creaking front door to his empty house, Sam was enveloped in silence. The air hung heavy with the scent of dust, a stark contrast to the rich aroma of dinner that usually awaited him. His mother, Rosa, worked tirelessly at the diner, juggling 2 jobs to provide for them both. Sam often wondered when they could return to simpler times, but knew the answers were lost in the past, buried with his grandfather. A glance at the clock on the wall told him it was too early for Rosa to be home. He dropped his backpack by the door, feeling the weight of it slip away for a mere moment, but the relief was fleeting. The house felt hollow, echoing the absence of laughter and light. With no one to share his thoughts, an overwhelming tide of loneliness swept over him. He needed air, anything to escape the suffocating stillness. He stepped onto the porch, the cool breeze brushing against his skin, a fleeting reminder of life outside these walls. As he wandered toward the alley, a faint sound caught his attention. Curiosity piqued, he ventured further, and there, beneath a flickering street lamp, he saw her. A small puppy, barely old enough to be away from her mother, huddled between 2 garbage cans. Her fur was matted, and she shivered as the wind nipped at her. Sam's heart ached at the sight. She looked lost, just like he felt. Kneeling down in front of her, he extended a cautious hand, keeping his movements slow. Their eyes met, his bright with uncertainty, hers glimmering with fear and hope. "Hey there, little one," he murmured, his voice tender and soft. "You're not like the rest, are you?" The puppy's tail wagged cautiously, and as he drew closer, she took a hesitant step forward, drawn by a longing for warmth and connection they both craved. Cradling her in his arms, Sam felt her tiny heartbeat, quick and fragile against his chest. This was no longer just a lost puppy. She was a kindred spirit, a silent acknowledgement of their shared solitude. An unexpected warmth surged within him, dispelling some of the despair that clung to his bones. "Let's go home, Luna," he whispered, naming her on a whim that felt so right. Her ears perked up at the sound of her name, and together they made their way back through the creaking door, confronting the empty rooms that now seemed less daunting. With Luna nestled in his arms, Sam felt a spark of hope flicker to life, igniting a small but undeniable sense of courage. Maybe he was not as alone as he had believed. And in that moment, as they settled into the gentle silence of the living room, he realized that perhaps, just perhaps, this little pup might help him find his way back to the music of life. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Sam settled into the worn, overstuffed couch that had once been his grandfather's favorite spot. Luna curled up beside him, her presence a comforting warmth against the cool air. The room was quiet, save for the rhythmic ticking of the old clock on the wall, a steady reminder of time slipping away, just like the moments he had shared with his grandfather. Sam's gaze drifted to the framed picture on the mantel. In it, he and his grandfather wore matching cowboy hats, their faces lit by broad smiles that spoke of joy and shared adventures. The memory of that day flooded his mind. A sunlit summer afternoon, filled with laughter, and the catchy tunes of George Strait playing softly in the background. They had danced around the living room, his grandfather's hearty voice harmonizing with the music, weaving an atmosphere of happiness that felt like a warm hug. "Remember when we danced to Amarillo by morning?" Sam whispered to Luna, his voice a mixture of nostalgia and longing. The puppy lifted her head, staring up at him with those big, soulful eyes that seemed to understand, and for a brief moment, Sam felt his grandfather's spirit wrap around him like a familiar blanket. In that instant, he closed his eyes, and allowed the memories to wash over him. He remembered sitting on his grandfather's lap, tiny fingers gripping the frayed edge of his shirt as they sang along to the radio. His grandfather would tell him stories of the cowboy life, both real and imagined, painting vivid pictures with his words. "Life is like a good country song, Sam. It has its ups and downs, but it's always worth singing along," his grandfather used to say, his voice rich with wisdom. But now those melodies felt distant, drowned out by the ache of his loss. The silence in the house deepened as the darkness settled outside, and Sam turned to Luna, noticing how her presence seemed to brighten the space. "Maybe we can find some music," he said softly, his heart racing at the prospect of keeping his grandfather's memory alive. With determination, he slid off the couch, gently nudging Luna to follow. They made their way over to a dusty old trunk that his grandfather had kept in the corner of the room. The trunk had always intrigued him. Filled with mysteries and memories, it was a treasure chest of his grandfather's life. Sam unlatched the lid, the rusty hinges creaking in protest as he opened it wide. Inside, he discovered a collection of vinyl records, their covers decorated with vibrant images of joy and heartache. He recognized George Strait among them, the man who had provided the soundtrack to his grandfather's life. Excitement bubbled within him as he carefully retrieved one of the records, gingerly placing it on the turntable. "This should do the trick," he murmured, more to himself than to Luna. As the needle touched the surface, the familiar twang of country music filled the room, and an overwhelming sense of comfort washed over him. Sam closed his eyes, letting the melodies wrap around him like a warm embrace. The sound of the guitar and Strait's soothing voice transported him back to those carefree days, helping to bridge the gap between the past and present. Luna wagged her tail in response, her instincts telling her that something special was unfolding. Sam smiled, feeling a renewed sense of belonging. He began to sway gently, lost in the melody. The strains of fool-hearted memory swirled through the air, evoking images of laughter and love. With each note, the heaviness in his heart began to lift, allowing him to breathe easier. "Let's dance, Luna," he said, spinning around the living room with the puppy at his heels. As he twirled, he felt the earlier clouds of loneliness dissipate, replaced by the resilient spirit of connection. In that moment, he understood that even though his grandfather was gone, the love they shared could never be diminished. It lived on in the music, in the memories, and now in this little puppy who stood by him, encouraging him to be brave. Time slipped away as the record spun on, each song an invitation to rediscover himself. Sam began to hum along, quietly at first, then louder as the warmth of the melodies seeped into his bones. With Luna by his side, he felt anchored, a reminder that he was never truly alone, and that love could transcend even the most profound loss. As the last note faded into silence, Sam realized that he was holding on to something far greater than just a memory. He was embracing the essence of his grandfather's spirit, the music that had become the soundtrack of his life. "Together," he whispered to Luna, "we'll find the music again." And so, as the shadows danced across the walls, he sat in the glow of the fading light, determined to honor his grandfather's legacy. The melodies of the heart would guide him in the days to come, allowing him to navigate his fears and discover the bonds that would heal him. Through the companionship of Luna and the power of music, Sam felt ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that both love and memory could light the way. Days turned into weeks, and soon spring began to wrap its warm fingers around the small town. For Sam, each day brought a mixture of hope and unease. He relished the moments spent at home with Luna, playing and dancing to the music of George Strait, but the outside world still loomed like a dark cloud. School was a different story entirely. The classroom buzzed with chatter and laughter, but Sam often felt like a distant observer, perched on the outskirts of the fray. The other kids seemed to glide effortlessly through friendships, while he struggled to find his footing. Recess, once a time of carefree play, had become a landscape of heartache, where laughter felt taunting and camaraderie remained out of reach. At lunchtime, Sam would sit alone at the edge of the cafeteria, his sandwich untouched and his thoughts swirling into a haze of insecurity. Watching the other children connect, he felt like a faded photograph in a bright world, longing for inclusion but unable to bridge the gap. The images of his grandfather dancing with him rang in his ears, but the courage they'd once inspired evaporated against the harsh realities of bullies and whispered taunts that echoed through the halls. "Hey, look who's here. The loner with his dog," one of the boys jeered, snickering at Sam's cornered position. Sam's stomach twisted as their laughter assaulted his ears. He glanced down at his tray, wishing to disappear entirely. But what hurt more was not just their words, but the truth behind them. He felt like he had lost himself somewhere along the way. Grandpa had always encouraged him to be brave, to stand tall, but now he shrank back into the shadows, feeling smaller than ever, an empty shell with no voice. After a particularly harsh exchange that left him feeling hollow inside, Sam retreated to a nearby tree during recess. He buried his face in his hands, frustration mixing with tears that threatened to spill. Luna sensed his distress from afar, bounding through the grass to his side, nudging him with her wet nose. Her presence was a balm to his battered spirit. "Why can't I just fit in?" he whispered, his heart aching. Luna rested her head on his knee, her warm eyes searching his face, as if to say that she would never leave his side no matter what the world threw at him. It was a comfort he desperately needed, but it didn't lift the weight of loneliness that crushed him. Just then, an elderly voice broke through the fog of despair. "Mind if I join you?" Sam looked up to see Mr. Alvarez, the kindly neighbor who had known his grandfather. His white hair was tousled by the breeze, and a warm smile stretched across his lips. Sam nodded hesitantly, appreciating the presence of someone who understood. Mr. Alvarez settled down beside him, his weathered eyes sparkling with kindness. "Your grandfather and I used to sit under this very tree," he said, gesturing around them. "He told me stories of the wild dreams he had, moments that shaped his heart. You remind me a lot of him, you know." Sam's heart fluttered at the mention of his grandfather, a familiar warmth washing over him. "Really?" he asked, curiosity piqued. "Absolutely," Mr. Alvarez continued. "He had a gentle spirit, much like yours. But he was brave, too. You can be brave, Sam, even when it feels hard. Your voice deserves to be heard." As they spoke, Sam gradually began to feel lighter, buoyed by the stories Mr. Alvarez shared, tales of adventure and love, laughter and music. Each word felt like a thread weaving them together, binding Sam to the legacy of his grandfather. "Music can heal even the deepest wounds. Just listen," Mr. Alvarez said, leaning back against the tree, his expression wistful. Sam contemplated the weight of those words. The melody that had once brought him joy now seemed like a distant echo in the cacophony of his insecurities. If only he had the strength to sing it out loud, to drown out the harsh words of others with the tender tones of George Strait. As the bell rang, signaling the end of recess, a quiet determination began to blossom within Sam. "Maybe I can find a way to be brave," he whispered to Luna as they stood to leave. The puppy trotted beside him, her spirit unyielding, radiating a warmth that made him believe that even when life felt heavy, there was still hope to be found in unlikely places. The shadows of doubt were still there, clouding his path, but he knew that with each note, each word spoken, he might be able to rise above the loneliness. He looked forward to the next day, where music and friendship could intertwine, just as it had in days gone by. He felt a flicker of light in the corners of his heart. With Luna's unwavering companionship and the wisdom of Mr. Alvarez, perhaps he could take a step toward reclaiming his voice in a world vast and harsh, yet also filled with possibilities. The dawn of a new day broke over the small town, casting a golden hue that danced across the dew-kissed grass. Sam awoke with a renewed sense of purpose, the lingering sound of music still echoing in his mind. Luna lay curled at his feet, her soft breaths a reminder that he would never be alone in this journey. He sat up slowly, allowing himself the luxury of hope for the first time in months. As he stretched and prepared for school, Sam's thoughts drifted back to Mr. Alvarez's words. "You can be brave, Sam." Those simple words resonated within him, urging him to embrace his fears rather than hide from them. He recalled the songs that filled the walls of his home, the melodies of George Strait that carried memories of laughter and love, imbued with his grandfather's spirit. In those moments of reflection, Sam found the strength to take the first step. "Let's do it, Luna," he said, determination surging through him. "Today we'll sing for the first time." The puppy's ears perked up, as if she understood the weight of his confidence. With her by his side, he felt an undeniable bond, one that infused him with courage despite the uncertainty still lurking in his heart. As he walked into school, the familiar sights and sounds flooded his senses. The bustling corridors were filled with laughter, but this time Sam wasn't ready to shrink into the background. He focused on the warmth rising in his chest instead. the echo of songs that reminded him of family, friends, and the bravery that awaited him. During lunch, Sam made his way to the cafeteria and noticed some students gathered around an open mic table in the corner. A flyer announced a talent show happening next week, inviting students to showcase their skills. Old insecurities bubbled up, but he remembered Mr. Alvarez's encouragement. His breath quickened as he scanned the crowd. Voices filled the air, excitement palpable among his peers. Sam's heart raced. He envisioned the stage, the bright lights shining down, the crowds waiting, and the music pouring from his soul. With a quickened pulse, he approached the table. "Can I sign up?" he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper, yet resolute. The student at the table looked surprised but smiled warmly. "Of course, name?" "Sam Martinez," he said, surprising himself with the clarity of his voice. "That's great. What will you be performing?" His heart raced. I want to sing a song by George Strait." The student nodded, still beaming. "Good choice, we can't wait." With that simple exchange, Sam felt a glimmer of fear dissolve into something larger, a tangle of excitement and promise. As days passed, Sam practiced in secret, often slipping into the backyard with Luna. The gentle breeze and the birds' chirps were his only audience. Each strum of the guitar grew bolder, the notes coming to life as he poured his heart into the music. With each familiar chord, he honored the spirit of his grandfather, summoning the courage that bubbled inside him. "Let's make this a tribute, Luna," he murmured during one practice, glancing down at her with newfound resolve. He felt the weight of the past transform into something vibrant, less of an anchor and more of a springboard. As he sang, his voice began to rise, sometimes wavering but always sincere. By the night of the talent show, nerves fluttered within him like 1,000 butterflies. The auditorium buzzed with anticipation, the bright stage lights illuminating faces filled with eager excitement. Sam felt the heat of the spotlight before he even stepped on stage, the sea of eyes watching him, waiting. "Just breathe. You've got this," he told himself, patting Luna's collar one last time as she watched from behind the curtain, her eyes shining with encouragement. When his name was called, Sam stepped forward, the world around him fading into a blur. With his guitar slung across his body, he took a deep breath and planted his feet firmly on the stage. The spotlight illuminated him, a sudden burst of warmth that felt both overwhelming and comforting. "You're not alone," he whispered under his breath, remembering Mr. Alvarez's words, the memory of his grandfather's laughter guiding him forward. He strummed the first chords of Amarillo by Morning, the familiar melody washing over him like a wave. The notes carried the weight of his grief, but also the joy of remembering and healing. Sam's voice quivered at first, but he let every word escape his lips with sincerity, pouring years of heartache and longing into the lyrics. As he sang, a calm enveloped him, transforming the panic into a dance of liberation. Each note filled the room, resonating within the walls, igniting something alive in both him and the audience. Together they experienced a quiet magic. The music transcended the emptiness he had lived with for too long. Luna sat just off stage, sensing the shift in his energy as he finally found his voice. She let out a gentle bark, as if to cheer him on, her presence reminding him that he was no longer alone. The crowd responded, some swaying, others closing their eyes to absorb the emotional weight carried within the music. As the final note hung in the air, Sam took a breath, a rush of exhilaration filling him completely. For the first time, he felt unleashed, no longer weighed down by the shadows of his past. With heartfelt gratitude, he looked at the audience and found kindness reflected in their faces. They applauded, the sound echoing like a beautiful symphony, wrapping around him like a warm hug. Sam stepped off the stage, a mixture of disbelief and joy coursing through him. The lonely spectre of his earlier fears had transformed into something vibrant and alive. The performance had turned the corner of healing. It felt less like an end and more like a beginning. Mr. Alvarez's words echoed in his mind once more. "You can be brave." In that moment, he understood what it meant to truly embrace that bravery. With Luna at his side, he smiled, looking ahead to a future brimming with possibilities, eager to carve out his own path amidst the melodies that would continue to shape his life. They were no longer two lost souls, but rather teammates, striving to find joy in every song, every note. A rebirth filled with warmth, healing, and a world rediscovered. The weeks that followed the talent show were like a new dawn breaking over a familiar world. Sam stepped into the halls of his school with a sense of purpose, his heart lighter, and a smile often hovering at the corners of his lips. The echo of his song still lingered within him, a sweet reminder of how courage could transform fear. The hushed whispers that used to grind against his spirit now morphed into words of encouragement, and it felt like he had stepped through some invisible threshold into a more vibrant life. The cafeteria was bustling with energy, laughter spilling over like sunlight through an open window. Sam settled at his usual spot, but this time, rather than feeling isolated, he embraced the conversations swarming around him. As he took a sip of his milk, he looked up to find a couple of classmates from his homeroom approaching. "Hey, Sam, that was awesome at the talent show. I didn't know you could sing like that," a girl named Mia said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Yeah, you rocked it," chimed in a boy named Jake. "You should join the music club. We'd love to have someone like you." Sam's heart raced, a mixture of surprise and joy warming his insides. "Thank you. I might think about it," he replied, a small blush creeping up his cheeks. He had never thought of joining a club. The idea was exhilarating. Days turned into flurries of excitement as Sam did think about it. More than just think. He found himself sketching out plans, envisioning how he could weave music into his daily routine. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that he could create a musical family. A tribe forged not just through shared interests, but through experiences of vulnerability and triumph. Before long, Sam was attending every meeting of the music club, learning alongside others who shared the same passion. He began experimenting with his sound, discovering what it meant to collaborate, to harmonize with the voices surrounding him. As he played and sang, he felt each strum and note binding them together in a tapestry of sound. One afternoon, perched against a sun-drenched window in the music room, Sam shared his inspiration. "I want to write songs about experiences that bring us together and heal us," he announced, his voice steady with newfound confidence. "We all have stories that need to be told. If it was possible for me to find my voice, I believe it can happen for others too." His words hung in the air, igniting enthusiasm among the group. They began brainstorming, sharing the highs and lows of their own stories, encouraging one another to pour their hearts onto paper. Each individual began to contribute, their shared experiences folding together like pages in a book, stitching a quilt of resilience. Through it all, Luna remained Sam's constant companion, accompanying him to club meetings, lying quietly at his feet, her loyal presence a source of comfort as they navigated this new journey together. Sometimes she'd lift her head at the sound of music, ears perked forward, as if tapping into the emotions that echoed off the walls. As weeks turned into months, the music club arranged a showcase, a night devoted to unveiling the original pieces they had created. Sam felt a surge of pride swell within him. He wasn't just a singer anymore, but a songwriter, sharing the deepest parts of himself with the world. The evening dawned under a star-speckled sky, the air charged with anticipation as families and friends gathered in the school auditorium. Flowers adorned the stage, lights twinkled, and the faint scent of popcorn wafted through the air, creating a buzz of excitement. Sam stood backstage, his hands slightly trembling as he plucked at his guitar strings, their vibration pulsing through him. "Just remember why you're doing this," Mr. Alvarez said, appearing at his side, an encouraging smile lighting up his face. "Music is a gift, Sam. Share it like you've done all along." Feeling a sudden rush of motivation, Sam nodded, his determination crystal clear. He watched as his classmates shared their songs, each performance filled with heart and raw emotion, a slice of their lives played out through carefully crafted notes. As they sang, Sam realized how each artist poured love into their stories, their vulnerability bearing glimpses of struggle and strength. It was the same spirit that sustained him throughout his own journey, woven through each song. Finally, it was his turn. With Luna waiting anxiously at the side, he stepped into the spotlight, the warmth of the stage washing over him like a familiar embrace. The crowd quieted, a tapestry of eager faces studying him, but this time he didn't feel small. He felt seen. Taking a deep breath, he introduced his song, a piece he had written about embracing vulnerability and finding strength amidst struggle. The first chord rang out, sending ripples of sound that danced across the room, followed by a surge of heartfelt lyrics filled with raw emotion. Invigorated, Sam poured everything into his performance, the melody echoing the stories he had learned along the way, stories woven through moments of despair, but illuminated by the light of connections that blossomed in friendship and music. Each note seemed to pulse with life, reaching out to every listener, including his beloved pup, who stood by with unyielding support. As he finished, the applause surged like a tidal wave enveloping him. The hands clapping together were not just sounds, they were affirmations, echoes of acceptance that stitched themselves into his heart. The warmth of the moment left him breathless, the realization washing over him. He was no longer just Sam the loner. He had become Sam the artist, a bridge between pain and love, survivor and creator. After the show, classmates rushed up to him, congratulating him with enthusiasm that filled him with joy. For the first time, he felt the comforting embrace of community. Luna barked happily, jumping around as if she understood just how monumental the night had been. "Thank you for sharing your story, Sam," Mia said, her eyes shining with tears of joy. "You've inspired all of us." "Can't wait for what comes next." As he basked in the celebration, Sam knew this was just the beginning. He felt free to explore, to create, to share, and to continue evolving. With Luna trailing behind him, he took that step into the open world, the melodies still calling to him, inviting him to weave them into the fabric of his life. The path was caked with both bright and shadowy moments, and he understood that life would continue to hold its challenges. But now he possessed a renewed strength and a profound connection to others through music. Together they stepped forward, embracing every adventure that awaited them on this remarkable journey. With a resounding sense of victory still echoing in his heart, Sam stepped into the following weeks with newfound enthusiasm. The music club became a sanctuary, a place where creativity flowed freely and inspiration hung in the air like the sweet scent of blooming flowers. He and his peers met regularly to collaborate on new songs, share their fears, and celebrate their progress. Together, they built a community that thrived on vulnerability and honesty, transforming their struggles into melodies. Yet, with this burgeoning happiness came unforeseen challenges. Sam's commitment to music and the camaraderie developed in the club began to clash with the responsibilities piling up on his shoulders. Schoolwork felt heavier than the weight of the guitar he slung over his back. The pressure of grades and expectations from teachers loomed large, pulling his focus away from the melodic world he found solace in. One crisp autumn afternoon, Sam sat in his room, papers scattered around him like fallen leaves. The feel of the guitar strings beneath his fingers juxtaposed the stress weighing on his mind. He absent-mindedly strummed chords, the sound a gentle reminder of what he loved but could not fully embrace in that moment. Sighing, he pushed the guitar aside, the frustration bubbling within him. "Why does everything have to be so hard?" he murmured into the silence, his heart heavy. Luna perched nearby with her head tilted, as if sensing his turmoil. The love and support from his music community felt distant now, overshadowed by the academic demands that insisted he define his worth by numbers and grades instead of passion and creativity. Days passed, and the once vibrant notes turned into echoes of uncertainty. Sam felt increasingly torn between fitting into the mold of a typical student and following his own path fueled by rhythm and song. The music club continued to meet, bursting with excitement, but he found himself withdrawing, haunted by the fear of failing to meet everyone's expectations. One evening, as the sky turned shades of deep indigo sprinkled with stars, Luna nudged Sam's hand, bringing him back to the present. With her soft eyes ever encouraging, he couldn't help but reflect on the last line of his song, the one that rang true even in challenging times, finding light in all the shadows. He realized he owed it to himself, and to the friends who believed in him, to not lose sight of that light. As he sought clarity, a flicker of an idea ignited within him. What if he organized a small concert, a gathering to showcase not just his talents, but also the talents of his fellow musicians, a space where they could express themselves without the pressures of grades or the judgments of others? Sam envisioned a Music for Healing concert, inviting people from the community to come together to share stories and celebrate the power of music. Upon sharing his idea with the music club, the room ignited with enthusiasm. Mia's face lit up with excitement. "That's perfect. We can not only showcase our songs but also encourage others to share theirs." A chorus of agreement filled the room, and the energy that Sam had thought lost returned in a wave of inspiration. By the time the concert night arrived, the school auditorium shimmered with anticipation. Strings of lights hung from the ceiling, casting a warm glow reminiscent of fireflies dancing in the dusk. Students, teachers, and parents buzzed with excitement, their chatter filling the air like the harmonies that floated around them. Before the night began, Sam stood backstage, nervous yet electrified. He glanced down at his set list, heart racing, and whispered to Luna, who was curled beside him. "This is it. This is our chance to make a difference." As the concert unfolded, songs filled the air, and vulnerability wove them closer together, transcending barriers and celebrating unique stories. Sam watched as his classmates poured their souls into each note, narrating their personal journeys, heartfelt and raw. Each performance illuminated the audience's faces, an emotional connection binding them all in the shared experience of love, loss, and resilience. Finally, it was Sam's moment again. Standing in front of the microphone, he took a deep breath, looking out into the sea of faces filled with warmth and support. "Thank you all for being here tonight," he began, his voice steady despite the slight tremor of excitement. "This concert isn't just about showcasing music. It's about embracing our stories and healing together." As he sang, the familiar chords echoed through the room, weaving together the threads of hope and connection. Each lyric resonated, the crowd swaying gently as they absorbed the message within, that within every darkness there is an invitation to find the light. After the final note hung in the air, the crowd erupted in applause, their voices mingling into one powerful reaffirmation. They were all in this together. For Sam, it was a liberating release. He had created not just a stage to perform, but a platform for conversations that mattered. People began to rise from their seats, sharing their own stories, art, and songs, igniting a dialogue that thrummed with life. Later that evening, as visitors mingled, Sam stepped to the side, bathed in the afterglow of joy and accomplishment. Luna remained faithfully by his side, her tail wagging against his leg. Among the laughter and introductions, he spotted Mr. Alvarez, who approached him with a proud smile. "I knew you had it in you, Sam," he said, enveloping him in a warm hug. "You've built something beautiful here." As Sam stood in the midst of camaraderie and connection, he no longer felt like an imposter or a discordant note. He was part of a symphony woven together through shared dreams and resilience, a community pulsing with life, moving forward through every high and low. Reflecting on their journey, he realized that challenges would come, but so would the strength to overcome them, fed by the connections forged through music. With Luna at his side, he felt ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, pulsing through life like a melody that must always find its way to the surface. Together, they were on a path illuminated by the beautiful complexities of existence, alive in the journey of healing and music. As the weeks rolled on after the concert, life took on a joyful rhythm for Sam. Guided by a newfound confidence, he embraced music's healing power in ways he had never imagined. With Luna faithfully by his side, the school became a vibrant space filled with laughter and collaboration among members of the music club, who were fueled by their shared creative energy. Sam's passion ignited further, leading him to propose a community festival, a grand event to celebrate stories and struggles through music. "Let's create a gathering where we can all share our love for music and talk about mental health," he suggested to his friends one afternoon. Mia's eyes lit up. "A festival sounds amazing. We could have local artists, workshops, and even open mic sessions." Excitement rippled through the club, and soon the whole school buzzed with the plan. Businesses offered sponsorships, musicians volunteered to perform, and families joined in to help. As the festival began to take shape, Sam felt the weight of responsibility rest on his shoulders. Yet with each step forward, he also felt newfound hope grow inside him, filling the spaces once marred by doubt. The day of the festival arrived, bathed in warm sunshine. The community park transformed into a lively tapestry of booths and stages, vibrant decorations resembling blossoms bursting into life. Laughter and joyful chatter echoed throughout the air, the anticipation palpable, binding everyone together with a common purpose. As performers took the stage, Sam felt his nerves twist within him, battling anticipation and excitement. He had organized everything, but now he had to immerse himself in the moment. Holding Luna's leash, he watched as students shared their songs, beautiful tales born from vulnerability and resilience that united listeners through shared experiences. Finally, it was his turn to perform. Standing before the crowd, he took a deep breath and spoke. This festival is about embracing our journeys and recognizing the strength within every struggle. The connection he felt in that moment was electrifying, and he was ready to share his heart. He sang with passion, pouring his soul into each note, dedicating his song to his grandfather, a tribute to the legacy that had inspired his love for music. As he sang about hope and healing, a calm enveloped the audience. They swayed, feeling the collective heartbeat of the experiences shared in that space. As the last chord rang out, exuberant applause cascaded over him. Sam stepped down from the stage, overwhelmed with gratitude. It wasn't just a performance, it was an affirmation of their journey, a celebration of community. For the remainder of the evening, the park thrummed with conversation, laughter, and storytelling. Sam moved through the gathering, absorbing the vibrant energy and witnessing people connect on a deeper level, sharing their own narratives and art. It warmed his heart to see poetry and music intertwining like the notes of a song. As twilight descended and stars twinkled above, Sam finally felt the significance of his efforts. This festival had transformed into a living testament to the resilience born of shared experiences, connecting voices and hearts in an unforgettable symphony. "Thank you, Sam," a fellow student said, his eyes brimming with emotion. "You've brought us all together tonight." In that moment, Sam realized just how far he had come, not just as a musician, but as a person who embraced his identity and his connection to others. With Luna nestled against him, he understood that the power of music lay not just in notes and lyrics, but in the way it could bridge gaps, heal wounds, and create a legacy. As he looked up at the stars, he felt ready for whatever the future held. Life would present its challenges, but the strength they had cultivated through music would guide them forward. Sam would continue to honor his grandfather's legacy, embracing the journey ahead, and together with Luna, he knew they would face it all, alive in the rhythm of healing and hope.